Welcome back and thank you for joining Connect with Heather. Today we are going to be joined by Craig and Caroline Dale. I am so excited to have the opportunity to talk with my friends and great leaders in our community. And so we're just going to jump right in and let me introduce Craig and Caroline. Craig is the senior pastor at Ivy Creek Baptist Church here in Buford, and he has been there for a few years, and I'm going to let him talk a little bit about that. And Caroline is the wonderful mother of their 4 children as well, and I'm going to let them talk a little bit more about their family and how they came to Ivy Creek. You want to go ahead and start us on your journey?
Sure. I've been blessed to be the pastor there at Ivy Creek for almost 10 years. In June will be 10 years. I'll celebrate my 10th anniversary. And Caroline and I have been together now for, I guess, 23 years. And we have 4 children, as you mentioned. Presley is our oldest, who is a senior this year, graduating from Buford High School. And then we have Maggie, who will be entering in the 9th grade, and Chloe, who will be a 7th grader, and Charlie, who will be a 3rd grader this coming fall. And so we have a pretty full house. We moved here. I'm actually from Gainesville, Georgia originally, so I'm a local boy for the most part, though I have lived quite a few different places at different points. But we moved here from Tennessee, where I pastored a church up in East Tennessee, and prior to that had been a part of a church plant here in this area. But yeah, we've been here for about 10 years and serving the Lord together there at Ivy Creek.
Absolutely. And Presley is graduating. Where's she going to college?
He's a proud dad. She's going to UGA in the fall, so she's excited about that.
There we go. Very exciting. That's wonderful. So I know you've been at the church for 10 years, and we've got some interesting times that we're all in right now. So would you share with us a little bit about how you're handling everything at Ivy Creek and maybe some of your services and how you're doing that?
Yeah, obviously, this has been for all pastors, all churches. This has been a very interesting time. As a matter of fact, I would have never believed that some 8-9 weeks ago that we would have shut everything down as far as in-person meetings. But obviously that's what we did. And we were not prepared at that point we had to do some very quick turnarounds in order to be able to continue our ministry there through an online presence. We didn't have that even really on our radar at that moment. And so when the recommendations came that and the guidelines came that really kind of put restrictions upon us, that was very almost to keep us from being able to worship together in the way that we had been accustomed. The staff really worked hard, and I really commend a lot of those folks for putting together everything to give us the opportunity to stream online. And so we had a couple of hiccups first couple of weeks, but then we figured out what we were doing, I think. And since that time, we've been able to live stream our services. We are currently just live streaming at one time at 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings. And we had to figure that out. I mean, this was one of those kind of things that we didn't have a plan, but whatever plan we had, I think it was Mike Tyson who gets quoted as saying, everybody's got a plan till they get hit in the mouth. And so we got hit in the mouth, and we had to change things, and we had to figure out what we were doing. And when we really just kind of had to try to figure out what our equilibrium was going to be, how we could get balanced and figure out, okay, so now how do we minister to our congregation in a whole new way? And we've been using staff devotionals, 5 to 10 minute devotionals that we've been doing every day, uploading those to Facebook, uploading them to Vimeo, directing people there to kind of just keep a consistent encouragement in their faith, in their walk with the Lord through the week, and then having the opportunity to to stream the services that we do on Sunday. So it's still a work in progress. We're still trying to figure out what the new norm is going to be, because none of us know what the new normal is going to be.
Absolutely. And I think, Caroline, you said that you are doing live with some of your kids. And we all know that our kids are all experiencing social and emotional challenges with the need to have to be at home or shelter in place. So these are other opportunities for them to continue to connect. How are you running those, Caroline?
We've done a couple of different things, but we've been doing, like on Wednesday nights, having some Zoom calls with small groups of kids just to connect with them, with their leaders. And then we've even got a couple small groups that are doing it on Sunday. So really just kind of those Zoom calls for them to touch base. And then some of them, we've got different small group leaders reaching out with phone calls and texts and postcards and things. So just trying to do little touches like that to help them stay connected. And it's been fun to see them really get excited about seeing their friends on Zoom.
Would you say that watching our kids and even our communities around us, whether neighbors or in our congregations at church, would you say that those connections, there are aspects of these that are things we wouldn't want to lose? And have you seen that? I've kind of seen that in how we're communicating with each other. We're having more time for each other, and our connections, I feel, are more sincere and more engaging. Would you say that you've seen some of that?
I think so. I think there has been some of that for sure. People more intentional about making sure they reach out and touch base with other people in their small groups and that they work with. So
I think we've experienced that too in some of our more the same kind of meetings, but through our adult small group Sunday school classes that have chosen to go this route as well, through Zoom meetings and other ways. I think the necessity of finding new ways to communicate, to stay connected to people, I think is the word you used, but that really is what it is. I mean, we have been separated from one another physically and isolated in many ways, but I think people as a general rule want to have connections with other people, and so this has driven us to that. It's not the same as being able to share a hug and shake a hand. It's not that, but there's something I don't know, tangible about this virtual reality. There's something tangible about looking someone in the face and being able to interact with them and see some of those nonverbal communications that we rely on regularly in our communication. And to be honest with you, that's one of the things that's been the most difficult for me in preaching, is that I have lost all of that.
Right.
In the congregation, we had 2 services that we were running every Sunday with a full house. To go from that to one service where there's practically no one in the room and you're preaching to a camera, it's taken me a little bit of getting used to just, there were so many things that I was unconscious of, but that I was relying on, and it was helping me as I preached to have the communication, to be able to see the faces, to be able to rely upon reactions to what I was saying, and then to not have that. It's been a challenge, but I think the Zoom meetings and those these kind of meetings like we're doing right now give you that, so that's been an interesting scenario for me personally.
I've experienced that a lot myself. And it's interesting that you're talking about the nonverbals. I taught deaf and hard of hearing when I was a teacher. And, obviously in that arena, you have nonverbals all the time. But in our hearing world, almost 80% or a little bit more than 80% of our communications are nonverbal. And we don't always pick up on tones of voices. We rely heavily on those engagements.
Right.
And I can, only imagine for you being in a room and leading the congregation, you still need those faces and those smiles and those nods,
It's
which,
amazing. It's amazing how much I was relying on those in some respects, just to keep you in the moment, you know.
yes. Well, and I feel even when I'm in Zoom, it does help me too. You'll probably see me, I have a tendency to nod a lot,
Right.
because that was my past engagement, was to make sure I was doing that more often.
Yeah.
So yes, for that aspect, I've actually really enjoyed an opportunity to do something a little bit different, but continue that connection. Absolutely. Is there anything that you guys have seen that has pleasantly surprised you in this time?
Well, I mean, I've been surprised by a lot of things. I'm working on the pleasantly surprised by them. But yeah, honestly, I've been pleasantly surprised with the patience and the flexibility that a lot of people have shown. I mean, I think in general, and that's painting with a pretty wide brush that I'm making the statement. In general, I think people have just been very open to, okay, we can make some adjustments here. Um, one of the statements that I have made for years, as particularly as a pastor in a Baptist church, is that change is a 6-letter word that's treated like a 4-letter word in a Baptist church. You know, change just doesn't always come easy. But in this moment, we've had to make changes. Everyone's had to make changes, and I think everyone recognizes that the fluidity of this moment has necessitated that we be able to adjust and adjust quickly, and not to immediately think that whatever adjustment we made first is going to be the new norm, because we've had to adjust multiple times. And I think all of us are cognizant of the fact that may have to continue. So I think I've been pleasantly surprised by that, because natural reaction sometimes is, if something isn't broke, don't fix it. But there were some things that broke in this, at least as it pertains to how we've been able to conduct our business on a normal basis. And so I've been very grateful for the patience and for the people being willing to work with us through this process of trying to figure out what our new norm is going to be.
Absolutely. On the business side, we talk about our daily tweaks, just from doing our Zoom calls or our systems.
Yeah.
Because every one of our meetings has to be prepared and takes longer. So our work days are longer to do sometimes the same amount of work.
Right.
So yes, I think we're all encountering that. And like I said, I've had so many wonderful conversations. I've actually enjoyed that opportunity, and it seems like we are all putting forth our best effort and our best foot forward.
Right.
In doing that. Caroline, I know you and I had talked that you have some ladies in your church that have been working to create masks, and also working with some of the PPE gowns for the hospital. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, it was just neat to have. We have a group that works all the time. They've been doing this for a couple of years on sewing different things for different organizations, missions that we support. So one of our church members who works at Northside Gwinnett contacted Craig right before the shelter in place, I guess. So it would probably been the very end of March, and said, could you get that group to make us some masks for the Northside Gwinnett? So they jumped right on it and they got it all done. I think they ended up making 250, 300 masks for that group. Then there's been a lot of other ladies independently that have been making them for first responders and nursing homes. And I know they all let me know the different groups that they're supporting. So then we have another lady that's a nurse up at Northeast Georgia Medical Center. So she asked some of them to make some of the PPE gowns that they were in desperate need of. So we've got a couple ladies working on those as well.
Excellent. Would they be in need of any materials or donations? And if so, is there a place that we could contact?
I'm sure that they would be grateful for that. I know that they have been going through the materials quickly, making, because some of them been sewing pretty much nonstop. So yes, I would think if they wanted just to send an email to the church office, which is just office@icbcga.org, that we can make the connections there. If anybody had extra materials or wanted just to make a donation for that we could.
I think elastic was what they were needing the most of at one point. I don't know if that's changed, but
I think everybody's had to get creative on the elastics and just making ties and different things. So I know it's been fun to hear some of them talk about how they got their order for elastic in, and it's just like Christmas because they got this big order of yards and yards of elastic.
We're becoming grateful and more appreciative for things we never thought we would think about, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, do you have anything else that you might like to share with us or shed any light on this experience and anything for our community?
I don't know of anything specifically. Just, I think, kind of piggybacking on what he was saying about just continuing to be flexible and kind of like what you were saying, and just being intentional on making wise choices, the best with information that we have, and staying connected with other people, not becoming, there's so many ways to connect, not to become isolated, because that brings its own challenges. So
absolutely.
I think I would just add this to that comment as well, is that right now everything that we're surrounded by is shifting. In fact, it's been interesting. Some of the things, some of the guidelines that were put out 2 months ago are now changed. That we've shifted to a new set of guidelines, and some of the information seems to change almost daily. You just mentioned the tweaks that businesses are having to make, and I think while that has fostered within us an opportunity to be flexible, as a minister of the gospel, I would state as clearly though as I can, especially in times like this when we're in a state of flux and when everything seems to be changing, and all the things that we had always been able to depend on appear to now not be so dependable. I would say that there is one who is absolutely dependable. There is one who never changes. The Bible speaks of him as the Messiah, Jesus Christ, and that the scriptures say of him that he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He does not change. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. He will never let you down. And as a minister of the gospel, I would just simply commend Jesus Christ to you, particularly in this time, to anyone that was interested in knowing that which is solid and does not change. He is the one who gave his life in exchange for yours, so that your sins might be forgiven by a holy and just God. And so it is my fervent hope that people will place their faith in him and trust in him to be their Lord and Savior, and then follow him with their lives and commit themselves to following him. So I think that's the one thing that I continue to try to point the people in my church. To those who are believers, I point you to Jesus. To those who have not yet come to faith in Christ, I point you to Jesus. I think he's the only answer that we have. And I think that is particularly true in the moment that we find ourselves in right now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing with us and for spending some time with us today.
You're welcome.
I would like to reach out to our community and let everyone know that, you know, yes, our team is in real estate, but we are here to continue to connect you with our community and with our leaders and excellent resources for you to connect with. So if there is anything we can do for you, whether it is in real estate or any of our community partners, please contact us at WMT Global Properties or join us on our group at Social Distancing Connects. We are here for you, and we will be more than happy to connect you. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thanks.